Re-
Hello.
Hi. Hello, David. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So how can I help you today?
Okay. I have started looking for jobs,
Okay.
and I'm in the last module of the course, just before the full stack deployment. I would like to know from you what is the requirement that typically employers look for on candidates regarding Postgres requirement. Like when we practice Rails, most of the Postgres interaction is the interface. So we do not deal with it very much.
Okay.
So
I think for that question you have to ask Harry, because I don't know too much about the backend part, the Postgres part.
okay.
Yeah. So you can message him in Slack, or you can ask him to schedule an office hour with you.
Okay.
Are you just doing backend, or are you doing full stack?
No, I'm doing full stack.
But you're looking for a backend job.
I'm looking for Rails, yeah, backend job and maybe full stack job. Is it a different requirement for backend?
Yeah, definitely. Full stack, backend, front end, there are three categories, right? So front end, you don't really have to deal with backend. So you don't have to care about Postgres. You just have to make API calls. You have to understand how backend, you have to have an idea of how backend works, etc. If it's just backend, then you have to be very good with, of course, database, Postgres, things like that. If it's full stack, then you have to know both, basically. So it depends what kind of job you're looking for.
I'm looking for full stack jobs, but since I'm unemployed and I don't have much experience,
Yeah.
I am looking also for backend jobs on Rails and also front-end jobs that use React.
Okay, so from my experience, most students that get a job are going to be in the front end. Because when you start as a developer and you go in the front end, even if you make mistakes, the mistakes are less likely to be catastrophic.
Okay.
So I do recommend you to look for jobs in front end, unless you think you're good enough, or you feel that you're good enough to look for a backend job. Because usually backend jobs, they will test you more on, like you said, I think they will test you more on database. They'll probably test you more on computer science knowledges. Because backend is all business logic, right? It's important stuff for the business.
Yeah.
So it's a very different job requirement.
Okay, yeah, I see. But having a full stack graduation doesn't allow me to, you think, to look for backend jobs, junior backend jobs, maybe?
It really depends on the company, how much resources they are willing to put in to train you after you get in the company, etc. It's just from my personal experience, most people get a front end job. A few get full stack jobs. People who already have some knowledge of computer science, they go for like the backend job. They go for more business logic side, like maybe routing algorithms, etc. Depends how good you are.
Okay, but you think if I start as front end, I can migrate later to back end with not much difficulty, or no, the front end will keep me like being front end, and when I want to migrate to back end, I'll have to be a junior back end and so on. What do you think?
Yes, I think so. I think if you want to migrate to backend, you still have to be a junior backend because backend again, it's very, very different, right?
Mm.
So front end, everything it's just not much business logic, right? It's just making things work on the browser.
Okay.
If there's a mistake, it's probably unlikely to change the database very much because database in the backend, you've done your Rails course. There are models, there are things that you put in check to make sure the database only changes in certain ways. So it doesn't matter how much you mess up the front end, the database should be protected by the backend engineer. That's why personally I suggest students to get the first job in front end or full stack. But even if you get a job as full stack, they probably put you on projects that are less, business sorry, what's the word? Important for the business. They're less important for the business.
Okay, I get it. I understand. Regarding Rails, I want to know it's a good practice to put more logic in the model than in the controller, right?
Yes. Well, from what I know, I haven't done backend for a while. But from my experience, when I used to work in backend as well, yes, you want a fat model. All the logics should be in the model, and the controller should be thin, etc.
Yeah, because on our projects, the controller always seems to be much bigger than the model.
It's just because the model that you've seen are not fat. When you get to real production, the models are very fat. The controllers, they are what they will be. The way you see your controllers now will be what actual controllers will be like in production. But in production, the models are gonna be much fatter.
Okay. When people require like Node.js knowledge, what do they want? Like, is the basic knowledge that I have using Node.js to install packages on the.
It depends if they are asking you to become a backend Node.js developer. Because you can build backend in Node.js as well, just like Rails and Ruby. So there are frameworks for Node.js backend servers like Express. I think most people are still using Express nowadays. It's just building backend with Node.js. If you're only doing front end, then I think what they expect for you is probably just create front end projects, use Node to manage packages, etc. Understand how to use Yarn, how to use npm, those things.
Okay, yeah, those things I'm fine now. When you have a controller like inside the project, sometimes we have to put skip before action and the helper method, right? And then later, after we put verify authenticity token.
Yes.
Right. Why is that? Because like on the Twitter clone, we have an authentication running, right? Mm-hmm. When user signs up, why do we have to skip things before? I don't know.
Okay, so for example, for some of the API endpoints, you have to be logged in to make the API call. But for example, when you're signing up, you don't have to be logged in to make the API call yet, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense? So when you want to post a tweet, when you want to get some tweets, then you have to be logged in to access that resource.
Okay.
But when you want to
Yeah.
sign up, you don't have to be logged in. That's why you don't have to be, that's why there is the skip before, so that, you know, it doesn't check that whether you've logged in or not. I believe that's what you're asking. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have 100% clarity of what the code looks like right now for the Twitter clone, but I recall that there is a function to check whether you're logged in or not, something like
Yeah.
that.
If I am not mistaken, the error that goes is error number 422, unprocessable entity. And when we put skip before action, the error disappears.
But what are you putting after skip before action? You have to
It's
put a
very
function or something.
authenticity token.
Authenticity token. Okay, then that's another different thing. So Rails has a mechanism to protect the user from being attacked through cross-site resource forgery. It's called CSRF. That's an old attack method where hackers can make API calls from a different domain URL on the website that they want to attack, and somehow the API requests go through, right? Because it wasn't protected. So once web developers figure out this attack method, they created something called CSRF. So it's cross-site resource forgery. It's forging an API request for another domain URL. So to combat this attack, what the Rails system proposed is using an authenticity token, which they will embed in the HTML head section. So when you are making an API request, you have to get that token from your HTML and add it inside the API request header, so that the Rails backend knows that you have access to the HTML and you have to be from the same domain. So only websites from the same domain can make requests to the backend of the same domain. So for example, only when you're on google.com, you can make requests to the google.com API.
Okay.
That's what authenticity token is about.
Okay. Okay. I have read it on the course, but I didn't know about CSRF, but I didn't know it verify authenticity token was related to that.
I think we go through it in the full stack course.
Yeah.
Full stack deployment course.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on the full stack deployment now.
You should be able to learn about it.
Yeah.
I have another meeting. Do you have any other questions? Last one.
Yes, last one. Why in the same project we have both the require or in the import word in the different application.js files?
It just depends. Require and import should work anyway. In both of them will work. When you allow import, require will work. Require is the old way to import things.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, David.
No problem. So if you have any other backend questions, you can message Harry. He'll help you. He'll answer them. You can message him in Slack, or you can ask him to create a office hour, or you can book him through the Rails course. In the Rails course, you can book him for the office hours.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. See you.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.